Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Cilia, joined by my co-host, JP Atsopardi, and here are your headlines for today. Malta enters picnic panic after fines are dished out to people eating without their masks on. Al-Nashar school students are to strike against physical classes on Friday. Hazardous waste contracts are being awarded to companies with no license or previous experience. Loa FC and Melita FC are locked in post-match fight amidst xenophobia controversy. And Parliamentary Speaker finds James Caterers guilty of breaching parliamentary privilege. Quite a mix of stories here, JP. You want to jump into the first one?
Absolutely. The first one, which was on everyone's mind yesterday following the new legal directive, is can you eat without a face mask when you're outside? Apparently a lot of people were confused yesterday, everyone from ministers to health authorities to us even, on whether you can eat legally, without a face mask as you wander outside. Apparently, at the time yesterday, it was illegal. So fines are being dished out for people who are sitting outside, walking around outside, having food, obviously removing the face mask at the time, smoking and whatnot, causing, a lot of confusion as in, hey, what can and can't we do? Speaking to the health ministry and whatnot, trying to clarify exactly what was going on. The health ministry said, listen, eventually they did change the legal directive to say you can eat now you can eat, drink or smoke outside whilst sitting down. They said this was the kind of the spirit of the legal directive in the first place, but obviously it wasn't communicated well enough in the beginning, resulting in police officers and les officers going out and finding people who were caught eating outside. So basically now, just to clarify, to get this out of the way, you can eat, drink and smoke, but you have to be sitting down outside. I think the idea behind this is that you can't be wandering around, interacting with other people or getting close to other people whilst you're eating and drinking and perhaps spreading, the coronavirus, the COVID-19. So it's, finally, fingers crossed, it's kind of been all resolved. But yesterday was a massive panic and people just confused, everyone confused, from Minister Miriam Daly to...
Exactly, as you said yourself, even ministers. Miriam Daly herself, Energy Minister, uploaded a photo over the weekend with her family enjoying a nice picnic in Ta'ali at a bench. Obviously, they were maskless when they were eating. She uploaded the photo, which received a lot of love, but also received a lot of criticism amidst this confusion over the rules. Miriam Daly herself issued a statement saying, listen, we chose a bench all by ourselves. We were wearing the mask the entire time until we ate. As soon as we finished eating, we put the mask back on. But what was interesting is another story yesterday showed just what picnics can do to the environment, funnily enough. Former radio presenter Trudy Kerr uploaded a video where she was walking in Mosta's beautiful Tarja Gap, beautiful green area. She was going for a walk with her dog when she came across a leftover picnic site. So there was lots of debris and trash littered all over the place. There was makeshift benches, a dead bonfire, beer bottles, plastic bags, and she was left really, really mad herself. She said, quote, "I'm absolutely disgusted that someone would come in here and do that. And if it was you, you are an idiot." There are no words. So now that we do have some clarification on picnics, if you do plan on doing some picnics, definitely clean up after yourselves. Do not be leaving your empty beer bottles behind. Moving on to the next story, students are reacting to the fact that classes are still being held in classrooms instead of going online. Students of Nashar's Giovanni Kermi Higher Secondary School will not be attending classes this Friday as part of a protest against physical classes. They are calling for classes to be held online, similar to other schools like junior college. They're saying, forcing us to come into class physically is putting us at a greater risk of catching COVID-19. One student who spoke to Lovin Malta said, quote, "It's hard to do this protest, but it's an attempt and it's better than doing nothing." They seem like they're really, really worried about catching COVID-19. Obviously, Malta is facing a spike in cases over the last week or two, so they might have a good reason for that.
Absolutely, and if you look most recently in the new legal directives, the government stopped all 16-year-olds and under from participating in contact sports. So, if that's the narrative they're going to take and the logic they're going to take, I don't see why children should be in school as well and mingling, side by side with other peers. If doing contact sport and being healthy is considered to be a risk, then being in school and with hundreds of other students is also considered to be a risk. But they have every right to do this. I understand that completely. They're worried about their health and they probably have vulnerable people. Some of them have vulnerable people at home and stuff. So in the midst of the biggest spike in COVID cases, I can totally understand where they're coming from. Moving on to our third story. Hazardous waste contracts are apparently being awarded to companies with no license or experience. Lovin Malta has been informed. The issue came to light recently when WasteServe awarded a tender for asbestos management to M-Stream Ltd, a company which did not possess the vital documentation to get the job done. For those of you who don't know, asbestos is a dangerous substance that causes cancer and other diseases. It was formerly used in the construction industry. And when the tender was awarded to M-Stream by WasteServe, a complaint was filed by a competing bidder. Upon review, the Public Contracts Review Board concluded that the tender should in fact start from scratch. Speaking to Lovin Malta, the Environment Ministry defended the practice because the government believes it should, and I quote, allow potential economic operators to invest and obtain necessary certifications even following an award for a particular contract. This seems to me, quite a serious issue to me. I mean, hazardous waste and stuff like asbestos is no joke, and considering Malta doesn't do too well in the environment anyways, the fact, and our construction industry is a bit of a mess, to see that, these contracts are being awarded to companies with no licenses or experience, especially when dealing with such serious material and whatnot, and they don't have the proper experience and to figure out how to do, take care of it and whatnot. It poses a serious threat, I think, and it really needs to be addressed.
No, it's quite shocking. When we're talking about key infrastructure, I can't help thinking of what happened in US's Flint, Michigan,
Exactly.
a few years back, where homeowners suddenly found that their water was just dirty brown because companies were given tasks that they weren't up to scratch for. Asbestos, I can't believe we're talking about asbestos in 2021. This is something that, was used in the past and should be left in the past. The idea that companies could be dealing with asbestos that don't have the right qualifications and don't have the right experience is shocking. Remember, this is a potentially lethal product. This can cause cancer in a person, so let's definitely look into this. We'll be following this story ourselves at Lovin Malta. Moving on to the next story, obviously, football, major event in Malta. Just this week we saw Hamrun take to the streets to celebrate a win, and now there's been another controversy after a match between Loa FC and Melita FC. So after the match ended, a fight broke out. It was quite a large fight. You can actually see video of the fight. I think it might even be playing on your screens right now. A lot of players were involved, the coaches were involved, and in the tussle, apparently a Loa FC football player told a British player who plays with Melita to go back to your country. Obviously, go back to your country is a very, very particular phrase, has terrible undertones, bit of xenophobic, racist undertones. And since then, both of the football teams have come out and put out comments and statements. Loa said they will be taking action against one of their players. However, they did say that it was not a racist incident. Melita FC, though, said it was a racist incident. But it just seems like every week there has to be some type of football controversy in Malta.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as the season kind of winds to a slow close, things start getting more heated. This was a playoff game, so obviously stakes were very high. Players were quite emotional on the pitch. The fight broke out. When Melita accused Lua of racism, essentially, Lua said, this wasn't the case. We will take action, but it also appealed to Melita to take action on its own players as well. I mean, they're both in fault here. Obviously, you have to, as an athlete, have some composure, especially in a game. At the end of the day, it is just a sport. So, to be fighting and throwing punches, especially when coaches get involved, which was the case here. But really, it does. You say something has to happen every week in football. I think, unless this has to come to light, because there are racist incidents like this in local football that just kind of get brushed over. I mean, we've seen these kind of similar incidences over the past few months with Paul Mbong apparently being hurled racist abuse, a 17-year-old Maya Lucia being hurled racist abuse by parents from a stand. So there clearly is a problem of xenophobia and racism in football that doesn't just seem to be addressed well enough, to the point that it keeps on happening every week. Moving on to our final story for today. Parliament Speaker finds James Caterers guilty of breaching parliamentary privilege. So a bit of a dramatic story here in terms that of the director of James Caterer threatened the National Audit Office with legal action after submitting a letter to them saying, listen, you auditing us, you investigating us, whatever you publish in our name would shed a bad light on us. If you shed a bad light on us, we will take legal action against you. Obviously, you could hear the business dealings and whatnot, but still, the National Audit Office has a right, has a duty, especially when instructed by Parliament, to audit companies. And this audit comes, in fact, with regards to a tender that was issued to James Caterer. I believe, I can't remember the name of the hospital.
St. Vincent de Paul.
St. Vincent de Paul, exactly. They were issued a tender to provide meals and to the hospital, and then next thing you know, it was tendered to take care of the rest of the hospital. A bit of a crazy story. So obviously, totally in their right to investigate the tenders awarded in this case, and in fact, Parliament Speaker found that their parliamentary privilege, they had abused of parliamentary privilege by threatening legal action against the National Audit Office.
That's exactly right. No, this is a pretty interesting story. So obviously James Caterers is one of the biggest food catering companies on the island, and obviously just remember a few weeks back, the CEO was involved in a very brutal car crash, which was reported. Hopefully he is doing better, but this is a bit worrying. Obviously, they were awarded a tender to take care of, as you said, food in the St. Vincent de Paul home back in 2015. All of a sudden, the tender expanded to them managing the home. This is a home that has over 500 beds. Two MPs, Marlene and Godfrey Farrugia, asked for an audit into this tender. It's a government tender, of course, multi-million-dollar tender, euro tender. The audit, though, as it was going underway, James Caterers were telling them some really, questionable things, such as you said yourself, if you say anything bad about us publicly, you might be putting our international deals at risk, and we will have to take legal action against you, which the National Audit Office did not take lightly. Quote, the NAO said that it will not be intimidated or adversely influenced in its work for Parliament, which is exactly why it decided to make it public and bring it up to the Public Accounts Committee. So we'll definitely have to see how the story develops. However, if you are being audited at a national level, when Parliament orders it itself, you might want to, hold that tongue in your mouth a little bit, because it could actually expand and make the situation much worse for you. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Both from myself and JP, have a day full of lovin'.